See why they don't understand. They know what they've done to us all across this country. They know what they've done to us. This country is desperately sick, and man is on the critical list. I really don't know where we go from here.
That's my shit right here. So that's my shit right here. Welcome back to another episode of Road to William. Y'all, today we're focusing on issues that affect queer people and how important that is just in a daily society outside of the elections and all the rhetoric that's going on right now, not just between specific communities, but all communities, I think, are just fighting against each other at this point to prove a point, to make a point in November, I guess. But y'all know me, y'all know about this channel. This channel all is about learning and growing. And that's what we're going to continue to do. We're never going to stop. So let's keep it popping. This video I found from PBS NewsHour. Uh, the video is called LGBTQ plus youth mental health suffering studies say. So they're going to go over some studies. They have a guest on there. It's going to break it down for us. And let me know in the comments how you've been feeling lately. You've been getting your mental health right.
Suicide attempts increased between 7 and 72% for transgender and non-binary young people living in states that enacted anti-trans legislation. That's according to a new study by the Trevor Project, which works to end suicide among lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender youth. The study relied on national survey data from 61,000 transgender and non-binary youth, and the results were published in the peer-reviewed journal Nature Human Behavior. Trevor Project CEO James Black joins us now. James, thank you so much for being here. Tell us about the study. How significant are the findings?
Very significant. And the study is not only significant, it's groundbreaking, and is because it is the first time, to our knowledge, that a causal relationship has been shown between the states that are enacting anti-trans legislation and the rate of suicide attempts. So that causal relationship, which is the highest level of research, is really important because it shows strong evidence that the enactment of these laws are causing an increase in suicide amongst non-binary and transgender youth in these states.
During the study's period from 2018 to 2022, there were 48 pieces of legislation against transgender young people enacted in 19 states. What types of laws were they?
They run the gamut. So laws like access to bathrooms, access to gender-affirming care, pronoun usage, discussing LGBTQ plus issues at school, right? Run the gamut.
And how do these laws affect young people? And we know that there are direct and indirect impacts.
Well, let's think about this. You remember how it felt when you were 13 years old, right? And when you were 13, you were going through probably an awkward time, trying to figure your life out socially, at school, etc. And then to think about on top of that, you now have your existence questioned. You now have to sometimes testify and justify who you are. That is a direct hit on your mental health. So the ways in which it's affecting our youth is not only is it causing extreme mental health impact to these youth with stress, and again, attempts of increase in suicide, it's also causing some youth and their families to have to move out of their state. So to find a safe state, moving out of a state that's unfriendly, and to go find another home that is friendly to them, an entirely new place that they actually have to live. And sometimes it even splits the family up. It's impacting our youth, but it's also impacting our families as well.
Let me know how y'all felt about that video. Completely agree with James Black was saying. Me growing up, the best examples I can always give is from my own experience. Because what I fight for, I needed somebody to fight for me growing up. I feel like fulfilling isn't the right word. I just feel like it's not always glitz and glam that comes with it. You want to fight for change, but more oftentimes than not, there's always going to be someone fighting against whatever it is you got going. And it's always going to be up to you to persevere and keep going if that's truly what you want to do in life. Like they said, it takes a hit on you mentally. So me growing up, just to point out a little, I was going through it a lot. I was at a time when I was like 15 years old, hopping house to house to house between families. But not only does your circumstances hit you mentally, but it hit me emotionally. It hit me different ways. And this is when I wasn't even like openly out queer to my family. You know, people suspect and they talk and they gossip and they this and they that, and including people at school or what have you. Everybody kind of want to know, and it's something to talk about. And even now, me openly trans, it's still a topic of discussion for a lot of people. It's still like it should be brought up at all times. The holidays, no matter the day, people want to talk about it like it's something you should like consistently want to talk about. It's just like I'm just trying to live and be a human being, bro. I could only imagine what it would be like growing up now. Not only are you getting discouragement from your family or the people around you, now it's social media is at its heightened it's ever been. Like me growing up, I'm a 90s baby. So it's like the internet for us growing up, for me, it was like this thing that was like so like it was part of my childhood. Always kind of a part of our lives at some point. Just even beginning at school, and they're teaching you how to go online, and this is how you look, and da 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 da. Like, so I feel like the internet's always been, but when it comes to social media, we only had a few social platforms, and YouTube wasn't popping like that. But to go through it now, I can only imagine how much it's hitting even harder for the generation behind me, how that's hitting them in a different way. But that's why it's important to check in on yourself, make sure you're involving yourselves in something that's going to be helpful to your mental. Always have something that's going to be helpful to your mental, because in life is always going to be something thrown at you, and it'll come out the woodwork. It's always going to be something in life that you're going to have to fight and change, and things like that. Like the past week or two, I've been hit with some curveballs enough for anybody would throw in a towel or give up or make them change into or conform to what other people want. And that's really what the fight is. I feel like right now people are just fighting for other people to conform to other things, and I'm just like, that's not how you create change, in my opinion. That's not how you create change. Another thing I don't hear a lot of people talk about, like we hear so much of what the election is going on. I never hear people talk about anything relating queer. I haven't seen anyone mention once Taylor Casey's name, as involved as people want to claim they're part of the queer community or know about it or know what the issues are. A lot of people still don't see the LGBTQ plus community as anything serious, or it's like, oh, we can wait on that, or that's not serious. Let's focus on what's affecting everybody, not just for a specific. And I think if we're talking about elections, you have to talk about it all. Otherwise, if you pick and choose, you only got what a majority would agree on. A lot of times, what the majority agrees on, they want to push. It's never the realistic. And so you have to be careful with that. You have to be careful with that. So this one, it says study finds LGBTQ plus youth mental health suffering in states with anti-trans laws. Right?
And I know that this affected you and your family personally. You moved states. Can you tell us a bit about your family's experience, if you could?
Yes, so I'm a native Texan, and in 2022, my wife and I decided to move our family from Texas to the DMV area for a multitude of reasons, all connected to the way that the state was heading in terms of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation, the threat of legislation, the words and the rhetoric that we were hearing from the politicians, and what my boys were hearing. We didn't feel safe as an LGBTQ plus family, as two women raising boys in Texas. We didn't feel safe anymore, and our boys were hearing things at school that just weren't right, that weren't okay. And as we continue to hear the rhetoric from politicians, that trickles down to the community, and it trickles down into the schools, and you start to hear that type of rhetoric from kids' mouths, and that's passed on to kids like mine. So we decided to move.
And also, kids in schools is one thing that's hard enough for young people, but then to include instruments of the state also taking legislative action in ways that influence their identity. I just can't imagine what that is like for these kids.
Exactly. And we need politicians to understand that their jobs are to not use our children as political pawns. That's not a way to get political points. They are responsible for protecting and supporting and being of service to all constituents. And that also means the trans and non-binary youth. That also means the LGBTQ plus families. That means everybody. You can't siphon off a section of your constituency because you don't understand them.
There are lots of families who can't move to a different state. So what sort of things can people who want to support them do to make them feel more welcome? And what sort of resources are available to those people who are being directly impacted by these laws?
In order to support our youth, we know that one supportive adult can significantly decrease the attempts of suicide. So we need adults to be supportive adults. We have research at Trevor and resources on how to be a great ally. So please go look that up on our website. We also know that you have to build community around our LGBTQ plus youth. So they need people who can understand them, support them, use the appropriate pronouns. That significantly decreases the attempts of suicide. And we also know that gender neutral restrooms, they need access to the basics. Bathrooms, gender neutral bathrooms also significantly decrease the stress that they are actually going through right now.
And this problem is not going anywhere this year. Past the studies term, hundreds more anti-LGBTQ plus bills have been proposed. 44 so far have passed into law. According to the ACLU, they include bathroom bans, healthcare restrictions, ID laws, sports restrictions, curriculum censorship. Do you think the pace of the passage and the considerations of these laws is going to be affected one way or the other by whoever wins the presidential election next month?
I think that there's a chance that whoever wins the presidential election, that we are going to continue to see an increase in the states, that we're going to continue to see it, maybe perhaps not on the federal level, but in the states. And that's because we have the same politicians who are continuing to be divisive, who are continuing to pass misinformation. So really the way that we fix that, there's an education gap. People do not understand or know who trans people are, what it means to be non-binary. They don't understand. So what we need to do is to reduce the stigma attached to it, and we need to educate people. If we don't educate people, if we don't fill that knowledge gap where people don't know, and so they're being fear-mongered is what I'll say. There's lots of fear amongst people when it comes to trans and non-binary people. So regardless of who wins the election, I believe that we're still going to see that type of rhetoric, and the pace could increase even, right? I believe that we have to fill that education gap and show people who people are. They are afraid of people like me. They're afraid of people who look like me, of youth who look like me. And the bottom line is we're all human.
The bathroom thing is real. I can attest that. Personally, I stopped going to public restrooms. If I'm going out, if I'm out or whatever, I just wait till I get back to the crib, or I go before the crib or whatever. But it's been a challenge for me. That's been my challenge, like I remember times out with my friends at the bar, and this was maybe a few years back, and I just couldn't get myself to go into the men's bathroom out of fear. And so even now, when I'm outside, people are saying, they're always saying, sir, whatnot. Even with the outside acknowledgement, I still fear going into a men's bathroom. Because it's not just, oh, I'm in here and not. It's like when you're in there, your level of safety, your level of comfortability, I can't speak to anybody else's story, but, if you feel comfortable, feel free to put in the comments what's your experience. I just know for me, to this day, I just haven't gone. I think at this point, I've just been like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to just not go. That's what I've decided, right? For the past few years, just to not go. And sometimes it's inconvenient, but a lot of times I think I've just blocked it out, that I've just like, it doesn't even occur to me. Like if I'm out and about, say someone's like, I'm about to go to the bathroom. I don't think to be like stressed then. I think at this point I've just like not even thought about it. as a decision I would make. And so I've just been working through that and stuff like that. But that's my reality. I know a lot of people might not take it seriously because they probably aren't directly affected. Like you're either not with someone who's queer or trans or someone who's going through, you're not it yourself and you're trying to understand so you don't feel directly hit by when they talk about anti-trans bills and this and that. But I think it's important when someone says anti and then goes on to attack a community, you should always feel directly impacted because they're not stopping there. You know, it's not a one-stop shop. That's just one of the stops they're going to make to prevent people from being who they are, prevent people from living their lives. And you heard they were talking about not having people not having access to gender affirming care. That is a part of mental health. I can attest to you that since being on testosterone these past few years, I haven't been more clear in my life. I haven't been more. I've been more clear. I've been more. I've been more happy with just mentally. You know what I mean? Aside from when you look in the mirror, aside from when you step outside, when people are looking at you, that's a whole nother thing. But aside from all of that, me being happy, me seeing a change, feeling a change, and for someone to say, no, you don't deserve to have access to that, or no, you shouldn't be putting whatever you want on your ID. It's just little ways to prevent anyone from being, and if you put it as simple as that, you can see that people just want to be free. People want to live their lives. I feel like before being on T, I was just skating through life. I was just being pushed into the same system a lot of people do. And you're going to get tired of it one day when you get tired of trying to be accepted by the closest ones to you because they believe in something that just doesn't make sense in reality. You become happier with yourselves. So I hope somebody out there received this message. I hope they got something from it. I hope you feel better about it. I hope you reflect, self-reflect always. But yeah, we'll check out the Trevor Project website together, break it down, find some resource, find some things for us to learn about. But yeah, that was just the video, and I appreciate the new people coming on the channel to support and vibe out. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, comment something peaceful. If you can't comment nothing else, comment a heart. You know, comment some words of inspiration for the next one, because that's what we all need. That's why I'm here. Yeah, and keep going. Don't stop the fight, you know. But y'all, thanks again for tuning in. A Road to William. Yes, my shit right here. So that's my shit right here.